Good morning, everyone. We're going to be talking about social validity in the training today. What do we know about social validity from our longtime folks? What are we trying to do when we think about social validity? Okay, so this is all about creating outcomes, right? That's part of this, is creating outcomes. What's some more about it? And go ahead.
No, that's just my phone. Sorry.
No problem. And Mark said that it's what society deems useful or helpful, right? So that's an important consideration of social validity. Anything else that you guys could think about?
It's what the person or the family deems like it's their way of living, not kind of like their environment. What's important.
Okay, we're considering what's important to the people we're working with, the VIPs, the stakeholders involved. Absolutely. All right, well, let's get into a little bit more detail. So social validity. It's a degree to which the VIP finds our involvement acceptable, right? So when we're working with our VIPs, we want them to find our involvement acceptable. And not just acceptable, but they want to be involved in our services. So pretty important part of our work. And it's a subjective. You know, many times in ABA, we talk a lot about objective. We want to count things. We want to take the feelings out of the equation. But in this case, we're really interested in knowing how they feel about our treatment, how they feel, how people that we're working with feel about what we are doing with them. So what's the importance of this? Why do we care about social validity? Well, the VIP is going to be more likely to stick with treatment. If we're working on things that are important to the VIP, things that are important to the stakeholders, and things that are important to society at large, our VIP and their stakeholders are much more likely to stick with the treatment, stick with what we are promoting in our behavior support plan. It's going to lead to better outcomes. When we have people working on, come on in. Hey, where are you? When we are working on goals that are important to the VIP, the stakeholders, and society at large, they're much more likely to stick with treatment. And if someone's sticking with the treatment, they're most likely going to have better outcomes. And also, it's going to encourage others to seek help. So when they hear about their involvement with reaching beyond limits, we really did a good job assessing for social validity. They stuck with the treatment. It led to better outcomes. Well, they're going to encourage their friends, families that are in similar circumstances to seek treatment themselves. And kind of the opposite, if we don't assess for social validity, we are going to kind of not implement parts of the program, right? People won't. If we kind of go out and we dictate what should be done, they're not going to dictate, they're not going to implement parts of the program. They could withdraw from service. We're not working on things that are important to the stakeholders, to the VIPs themselves. They are much more likely to withdraw from service. Hey, we don't need behavior supports. They didn't listen to me about my ideas for goals. And then they will share their disapproval with others, their friends and family who are in similar circumstances. Hey, this didn't work out for us. It probably won't work out for you either. So we don't want this. We want to make sure that we have strong social validity in our treatment. So what are we talking about with social validity? Does the VIP, the caregivers or the stakeholders involved, and society at large find our work meaningful? The answer to that question should be yes. And these are the three areas that we want to consider when we're thinking about this question in our goals. So the goals, the behavioral goals that we're implementing with our VIPs, in our interventions or our procedures that we're using, and in our outcomes. After we're done with treatment, are they satisfied with the result? These are just some sample questions. So when I'm out doing an FBA and I'm trying to figure out the very first part of treatment for this individual, I could ask the stakeholders or the VIPs themselves some questions that could help me lead to an ultimate outcome of treatment and to ensure that I have a strong social validity component to my treatment plan. These are just questions, and they're included in the FBA interview form. So if you're a BSc going out conducting FBAs, these questions are right in the interview form for you to ask. If you could change one thing today that would make VIP's name life better tomorrow, what would it be? And you can see how that could lead to an outcome that we then can develop target behaviors. What might an answer to this question be? We're talking to a mother. We're going out doing an... So the mother might say to us, we really want our son or daughter to stop scratching themselves. That would be a great goal to prioritize. So you see how this question could lead you to target behaviors and goals that we would want to then work on in our behavior support plan. Is there any other examples for maybe a skill acquisition behavior? Taking showers. Hey, you know, like we've been kicked out of a day program because we haven't been showering. We haven't showered in 6 months. This is really important. So this person can then access the community. Well, this would be a goal that I would definitely prioritize in my behavior support plan. Some more questions. What is it about this person that keeps you up at night? And what's important to you is just very plain and simple like that. But there's many other questions that you can ask that fall on the same lines as this. And we want to make sure we're ensuring on the VIP's benefit. You know, sometimes we might be talking to stakeholders and they might have a behavior that might be deemed annoying, maybe like self-stimulatory behavior. But you know, all behavior serves a function. And if that functions to help soothe that person, that might not be a goal that we would prioritize just because it is annoying to a caregiver, right? So we want to make sure that when we're prioritizing our goals, we are ensuring that we are focusing on the VIP's benefit. Any questions so far? Okay, so assessing for the social validity of goals. So when we're thinking about goals in our behavior support plan and what we should be working on, these are some ways to figure it out. Okay, so this is what I like to do sometimes, and this is for a VIP that has a strong communication skill. I might ask the VIP themselves what their life looks like 3 to 5 years from now. Say, tell me, Sam, what does Sam's life look like 3 years from now? What do you want your life to look like? And they could tell you, what does Sam look like? And I just made that name up. What does your life look like? What would you like to be into 3 years from now? And the VIPs themselves will tell you, hey, I'd like to be, tell me, what do you think they might say? Get a job. Live on my own. Live in my own apartment. Get married. So can we identify target behaviors that go along with each of these goals? So what was yours again, Nadine?
Get a job.
Get a job. So what are some behaviors that might go into that ultimate outcome of getting a job?
Socialization.
Improving socialization. So what's a behavior that we might work on? Okay, so like back and forth conversation. What about like more focused on the job process, getting a job? Money management, maybe if they're like want to be a cashier, right? Yeah, absolutely. What else?
Work toleration over a long enough period to have it be a shift at a job.
Work toleration, I love it. Yeah, going from 0 to 40, 50, 60 could be a lot for someone, absolutely. How about like practicing interviews? We're going to practice interviews twice a week. We're going to practice dressing for an interview. Guys, we could line up the target behaviors just by this goal alone. We have tons of goals we could work on now in the behavior support plan, and our social validity is strong. You can see the VIP wanting to engage because we're working on things that are important to them. What was yours? Well, yeah.
I'll live on my own.
Live on your own. So what are some behaviors that might be included in that behavior support plan? What was it? Sorry, everyone spoke at once. Chores, yeah. ADL skills, doing laundry, dishes, all the fun stuff. What else?
Paying bills.
I was thinking the same thing, paying bills. Logging into that online portal, getting those auto payments set up, right? Managing your bank account. And what was your goal, Natalia? Did you say a goal?
I didn't, but I can say hygiene.
Okay, hygiene. I know that's big on your mind, yeah.
It is big.
So improve hygiene. What behaviors can fall into that boat? Into that behavior support plan? Brushing your teeth, showering,
Deodorant.
wearing, I love how that was said like that.
Clean
Deodorant.
clean clothes.
It's been hot the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And smelly. So guys, you can see that this simple exercise can lead to your whole behavior support plan, starting at the ultimate outcome of treatment. And we're going to get into that a little bit more. All right, let's continue. Okay, we talked about this. Work backwards to help determine target behaviors that will lead them to this vision, right? And we talked about that. And I think we hit that point home nicely. So great job. Thanks for your participation. Other areas to assess social validity. So I'm considering just asking myself this when I'm writing my behavior support plan and throughout my treatment with the individual. Are the specific behavior program goals and mastery criteria really what society wants? And really what society wants, so it's society at large. And I like to think with this one, obviously I'm not going to go out on the streets and scream what I'm doing to society, and hopefully they agree with me. But I'm going to think to myself, if I put my treatment on TV for the whole nation to watch, would they be satisfied with what I'm working on? Would they be happy with my involvement? So that's a way to consider if my social validity is strong for the society portion here. But we also want to make sure that it's what the VIPs themselves want, right? And through talking with them, through interacting with them, we could work on goals that are important to them. And the important people in the VIP's life I'm going to consider. Mom, dad, group home manager, and through this process of finding out what's important to all these groups of people, what is it going to serve to do to our relationships? Yeah, they're going to make this, and our job is, our foundation in our work is based on our relationships with our VIPs and our stakeholders. That is how we get our work accomplished. So assessing for this only is going to serve to help your relationships. All right, let's continue. Do the participants, caregivers, and other VIPs consider the treatment procedures acceptable? We're thinking about goals here, but even in our procedures or the interventions we are using in treatment, do these groups, would they find them acceptable? And not just acceptable, they want to be doing them. They want to be involved in the interventions. So we steer clear of punishment strategies and extinction strategies for many times because we just want to default to reinforcement. We want to use our reinforcement strategies because those are the ones that are going to lead to the most joy for people. What's a great way to assess our interventions in our behavior support plan? What simply could we do? What was it? We could show the graphing that our interventions are working. But before we even start teaching interventions, what should we do with the behavior support plan? Go over it with the family and the VIPs and say, these are the strategies I'm going to be implementing. Is this something that's reasonable? Is this something that you approve of? Have them tidy up the plan. Have them tell you some feedback so you can make that plan super strong in the intervention part of the social validity.
Like they can say like what goals they would like their VIP or their patient or whatever to have set.
Yeah, exactly. And not just the goals, but the interventions, the things we do to get them to those goals. We want to make sure they're satisfied in that realm too. So reviewing the behavior support plan is a great way to do this. Before I implement the behavior support plan, I'm going to review it with the team and ask for feedback. And then I'm going to change those goals, those procedures, to better suit their opinions and their feelings about the matter to the best of my ability. And then, are the VIPs satisfied with the results? And that's the outcomes. Are they satisfied with, and hopefully it's a significant positive life change that we have helped them get to. And are they satisfied? Do they want to take things further? Those are the three areas that I'm thinking about for social validity. Our goals, our interventions, and the outcomes. Any questions?
So say that if the VIP does not meet up to those expectations of their goals or whatever they have in their care plan, what happens then?
We need to take a look at the behavior support plan and revamp it and review it and change it to make sure that they are making progress. And
It's like a 6-month period to say, okay, they do it for 6 months and then they just completely stop.
that could happen.
Actually.
Definitely. That could happen. And we need to constantly be assessing. We need to constantly be reviewing and collecting data and reviewing our graphs to ensure progress is being maintained and promoted. One of the 7 dimensions of ABA is effective. And what effective means is that we are making significant behavior change in that person's life. And with the strategies we're using are having those changes. If we're out there working every day and we're not seeing that change, it's time for us to revamp our strategies, to get back to the drawing board. Maybe do a little of this. Any other questions about this slide? So sometimes our VIPs, you might be thinking, don't have the best communication repertoire to be able to go into detail about their future goals, about the interventions we're using, and about the outcomes. So how may we determine if they're satisfied with what we're doing, if they're happy with what we're doing? Well, there's a term called indices of happiness. Have you guys ever heard of this? This is a new slide. So indices of happiness means are observable patterns in behavior that indicate a positive emotional state. So what does that look like? Yeah, I was like, check out the emoji. Right? So a smile. What else? Hello. How about like laughter? Smiling. Our VIPs are approaching us when we walk into a room. When we're implementing the behavior support plan, if we notice these indices of happiness, we can think to ourselves, we have strong social validity in what we're doing. And so, of course, we use this to assess the social validity of interventions and provide insights into promoting a better quality of life. So when we're working on goals and we're working on skills and the person is happy, they're having a good time, they're enjoying what we are doing, that's a great sign that we're on the right track and we have strong social validity in what we're doing. Any questions about indices of happiness? And it's not just for our non-vocal community, it's even it's for everyone. We want everyone to be in this mood when we're working with them. There's other ways to assess, not just indices of happiness. We can use a rating scale. And we can include all target behavior goals and have team members rate each goal. Tell us what you find most important. We have all these goals we could potentially work on. What do you guys find the most important? And have them rate. And that can help you prioritize the goal. We could also use a normative comparison. And what I think about with normative comparison is normal, the word normal. And what is normal for people in the environment that we are working in? Right? What's normal for the day? We're working with someone in the day program and we want them to achieve what goal? Group participation. So what is a normal group participation frequency or duration maybe in this case, for the day program? What would we like to see normally throughout the day for someone? Maybe that's a great way to prioritize that goal. What is normal for people in the environment? What is normal for that age group? What is normal for their age group? And does what we're working on impact the VIP's performance in these areas? Does anyone have any questions about rating scales or normative comparison? So just some other ways that we can prioritize goals, find out what we should be working on in our behavior support plan. Speaking of, I'm glad you found that funny. Behavior support plan. So how do we put this into our behavior support plan? Which I always like to talk to you guys about. So start with the ultimate outcome of treatment in mind. Or what is the ultimate outcome of treatment? When we're talking about an ultimate outcome of treatment, this is what we're talking about. Their life changes based on the individual's preference or broad goals. When we were thinking about remember our exercise where we asked the VIP to think about what their life is in 3 to 5 years, and they were like, get a job, live in an apartment, and improve hygiene? Well, these are our ultimate outcomes. I'm going to slap that baby right on the top of the behavior support plan. And what am I going to say? Improve hygiene. That's my ultimate outcome of treatment. So then I'm kind of working with this big umbrella. Right? And I start off with this big umbrella, improve hygiene. And I'm going to slowly narrow it down into target behaviors. So our life changes based on the individual's preferences. And we talked a lot about this. We're not working on things that we think are important. We're working on things that they deem important. They're not specific changes in behavior per se, but they're specific objectives. Right? Like living in an apartment. Some of the examples that I included are maintain a healthy lifestyle. What target behaviors might fall under that ultimate outcome of treatment? Yeah, I was like, a million behaviors. Yeah, so exercise. And how can we quantify an exercise target behavior? How many times?
Once every day.
Okay, that's awesome. And I would love to see that goal in a behavior support plan. So good thinking, right? And that's what I'm thinking about when I'm writing these target behaviors, that I'm assigning a number to them, right, that I would like to see. And that's what I mean by quantitative. But we're getting to target behaviors a little bit. This is about the ultimate outcome. Don't get involved with that. So we're going to have this broad goal that dictates everything that falls underneath it. These are the criteria for the ultimate outcome. Socially significant. That we're working on things that are socially significant, that are going to lead this person to a whole world of reinforcement, that are important to the individual. Contextually appropriate. Functional, consider culture and religion. So we're considering the culture of the family, the religion of the family. How might we do that? Very simply. You ask. Ask during your assessment.
Ask questions.
Yeah. And we want to make sure this ultimate outcome is reachable. Right? That they could actually get there eventually. And measurable. We should know for certain if they reach their ultimate outcome. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle, for instance, right? And they are exercising once a day. Right? And we see that occur once a day for months and months. We are measuring that. So great job. Ultimate outcome. So that's where we all start. That's where we start this process. As we narrow it down, we may include a intermediate outcome. And the intermediate outcome just helps narrow it down. These aren't always necessary in the behavior support plan, but sometimes they can be used to help narrow down our goals. So when we're talking about maintaining a healthy lifestyle, we may put an intermediate outcome of eating a balanced diet, or what Ashley said, exercising. What could be a target behavior that could fall under this intermediate outcome of treatment? Eating a balanced diet.
Maybe incorporating one vegetable per meal.
Okay. Yeah, one vegetable a meal.
I mean, I guess I want a vegetable and breakfast unless you have like spinach and eggs. But whatever, you get my point.
Yeah, I was thinking like, what about like a certain caloric intake every day? We're gonna try to stay under that. That would be cool.
Calorie intake.
Yeah, calorie intake. Yeah. And then we talked about how an intermediate outcome could be like improve exercise, and then target behaviors would be kind of different under that heading. We had maybe like a 10 or graduate high school. Well, we might have an intermediate outcome underneath that, develop study skills. Oh, and we have a job. And this is about the job. We talked about this one too. Develop interview skills. Could be a way to narrow down our intermediate outcomes. And again, intermediate outcomes, we don't always use them, but sometimes they come in handy if we need to kind of categorize our target behaviors we're working on a bit more. Okay? And then finally, we're at our target behaviors. So we started with the ultimate outcome of treatment. We're narrowing it down to the intermediate, perhaps, and then going right to the target behaviors. So here we have, and this is from Grace.
I didn't even know that was there.
So we have maintain a healthy lifestyle, ultimate outcome. We narrowed it down to eating a balanced diet in our behavior support plan. And now we narrowed it down even more to eat 7 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. And this is an observable, measurable behavior now that we are working on in our behavior support plan. What might be another one that could fall under, we talked about this, eat a caloric intake perhaps. We had graduate high school. And then our intermediate outcome is develop study skills. What's a target behavior? Study for an hour, 4 days a week. Develop interview skills. Obtain a job is the ultimate outcome. Intermediate, develop interview skills. Target behavior, practice interviews with 3 different people per week. Do you guys see how I started with the big, broad goal and I slowly narrowed it down into target behaviors? And that is the idea here. The ultimate outcome comes from whom? And? Yes, good job, you guys. Absolutely. Right, yeah. So they told me, all I'm doing is putting it down. They're kind of telling me what they would like to work on, and I'm kind of navigating them through this, but they're telling me what they want to work on. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Any questions about this? Do you guys understand how we start off big and narrow it down to target behaviors that are observable and measurable, right? And you guys see in my examples of target behaviors, there's always a number assigned to it. That is how we know we're making progress, so we can start counting it, and that's the objective part of our work. Any questions about this? Does it make sense? Thought I saw a hand coming up. Prioritizing goals. So we may want to choose to work on behavioral cusps. What are behavioral cusps? They will, yeah. Important targets for acquisition. So these are important things that we should prioritize in our behavior support plan. They're going to allow more efficiency in learning. And ultimately, they're going to be given access to a whole new world of reinforcers, which is pretty cool, which is what is our main focus of our job, is to help our VIPs access things that they enjoy, right? So this behavioral cluster is a great way to prioritize target behaviors in your treatment plan. Okay, helps us prioritize behaviors in our treatment plan. I don't even need this. System will allow you to systematically select target behaviors and outcomes that are important to the individual. Okay, let's continue. I think there's another slide about this. Behavioral cost considerations. And these are some of the questions I'm asking when I'm writing my behavior support plan and I'm implementing interventions and I'm considering the outcomes. Will this goal, target behaviors, outcomes, procedures, lead this person to new reinforcers, access to new contingencies, access to new environments? Or do they have strong social validity? Oh, can they be generalized? And will they compete with inappropriate responses? So let's talk a little bit about behavior cusps. Thinking about these two slides, what would be an important behavioral cusp? Think about a baby. What does a baby learn early on to access new reinforcers? Okay, cry. Yes, I was thinking that too. But that was a fine answer. They'll cry, but not really a behavioral cusp, crying. But walking, right? That's what I was thinking. So will walking lead to access to new reinforcers? New contingencies? New environments? Probably important to the person, to their stakeholders? Yes, 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 yes. So walking could be a great target behavior to select in your behavior support plan for this person. What's one that I am doing a lot of right now? Talking. I'm sorry about that. Talking, right? So if we could teach someone to request their favorite drinks, request their favorite foods, are we leading to access to new reinforcers? Access to new contingencies, new environments? Where can we now take this person if they could talk instead of having challenging behaviors? Out in the community, which is a whole world of reinforcement. So should we prioritize teaching someone to communicate? Whether through vocal communication, sign language, cards? Absolutely. This will lead them to a much better life. And think about problem behaviors for a minute, guys. When someone has a problem behavior, wherever, we'll say the community, what tends to happen naturally? We're in a store, problem behavior happens. What is the first reaction some people think about?
Stare.
Okay, people stare. But what's the, after all that goes on, what happens the next time we're going out to the store? So what? No.
Well, that's something that I see people do. Like,
Oh yes,
kids
take them
are
out of the
crying,
environment.
Out.
They're out of there, yeah. And then now we're going back to that same environment. What might that parent do now?
The speech before they get in.
Okay, we could do our interventions, but what I tend...
Avoid
Yes.
whatever. Yeah.
Yes, right? What I see to someone who's not trained in behaviors, they would say, we're never going back to that store. We're never going back there. We're never taking this person to that environment. Right?
I gave up too easy.
So you could see how, exactly right. And you can see how problem behaviors lead to restrictions in someone's life. When someone's engaged in problem behaviors, it restricts their life. It doesn't lead them to new reinforcers, new contingencies, new environments. It has the opposite effects. So teaching these behavioral cusps is a great way to get that person back on track. And using our interventions in our behavior support plan, it'll give them access to this area that they were having trouble in. Any questions about that idea? And we talked about walking. We talked about talking. What are some other behavioral cusps you could think about? Okay, appropriate social interactions, yeah, right?
How to act like around their own peers of their own age and how to act around people that are not their age.
Yeah, that's really important, right? Yeah, going to school, things like that, super important.
Going to a restaurant.
Going to a restaurant, yeah, so it's super important. We're leading them to all these great places. I was thinking like potty training. Were you going to say that?
Using a spoon or fork. Like,
Yeah. Using a spoon or fork, potty training, super important in a lot of community areas to be able to use a toilet. Right? And I've seen, actually working with kids, I've seen people be declined daycare and summer services because the person wasn't potty trained. So important we work on this. Yeah, right?
It's not only for like our society, but it's also for their society too. Because like for a normal person, like it's hard for us to have our children go to a daycare if they're not potty trained.
Right.
So it's even harder for them because if they're not potty trained,
And they might not even accept them. Some daycares might not. Or
some programs might not accept.
summer camps. That was a common one where they wouldn't accept a child.
Most daycares at a certain age, they won't, if they're not, I've worked in a daycare, Mariam, I know you have too.
I have too.
They will not accept if they are
Oh.
not potty trained at a certain age.
And I worked at daycares too as a behavior analyst. And the same thing. It's like, we got to work on this, mom and dad. This has to get accomplished because now now you'll be able to go to work and put them in the daycare that they need to be in for the day while you can earn money. Feed themselves, yeah. So that's an important skill that we should prioritize and work on. Anything else you guys could think about for behavioral cusps? I think you guys are picking up the idea very nicely. So, right? And these are the questions I'm thinking about. And it's obvious. It's obvious. But if I could help teach someone to access new reinforcers, new contingencies, new environments, I have strong social validity, I'm on the right track with my treatment. Is that the last slide? So guys, that is a social validity training. What questions do you have for me?
Great job.
Thank you. So guys, use social validity in your work. Use social validity to figure out the ultimate outcome of treatment so that you can develop target behaviors that are important to the VIP, the stakeholder, and society at large. And we're going to consider all of those three groups of people for three different areas in our goals, in our interventions, and in our outcomes. If you guys do this, you guys are on the right track with your treatment. Any questions before we conclude? Thank you for your attention and participation, and have a great day.